So we've described the three basic processes, if you will, that are part of defining memory. We mentioned recall, we mentioned recognition, and we mentioned also as well relearning as another component piece. The next question that researchers wondered about is how do we describe memory itself? And one of the biggest developments that changed the landscape of how we understand human memory was the development of the computer. Now, why would that be? Well, part of the reason that would be is because the computer gives us a model to understand input, storage, and retrieval, and it makes it real or concrete. And essentially, these three component parts are also part of memory itself. Input, in our terms, is taking information in and encoding it in a way that I can remember it. So we have encoding. The other component part of that is storage. I have to have some place to store it in order to maintain it over time, since we defined memory as persistence of learning over time. And then finally, retrieval. So when we talk about having a poor memory, it usually always has to do with one of these three component parts. Either I've encoded it poorly, it's been stored, but it's been stored in a faulty fashion, or the storage, I can't store it very well, or retrieval. My ability to pull it out is not as good. The video that introduced this component at the beginning, the first video that started this whole module out, was the one that talks about a guy without a memory. And it isn't so much that he can't remember, it's that he can't encode the information. And so essentially, he makes his skin be the storage device. He tattoos things to him. So now, there are two prevailing models when we talk about memory itself. And the first model was built on the computer model, and it was the Atkinson Schifren model. They referred to it as information processing, info processing. And essentially, they took memory and they proposed that there were three component parts to memory. The first was sensory memory. So everything that comes in through the senses. There are specific memory storage components to our senses, and we'll talk about that in a minute. There is short-term memory, STM, which in their way of thinking was just a passive storage place that was emptied, and either things would move on to long-term memory and therefore remembered accordingly, or was just simply lost out of short-term memory because it wasn't relevant or whatever. So Atkinson and Schifren, this information processing model, was built really in a lot of ways on the computer model. The second model that is important to remember is the one that was put forth and researched by a guy by the name of Baddeley and his colleague Hitch, Baddeley and Hitch. And they proposed that the sensory memory they didn't have any contention or problem with that. But what they did have a problem with is short-term memory isn't as passive as we once thought. And they proposed the idea of what they referred to as working memory. And working memory is very different than this short-term memory. In a sense, the short-term memory in Schifren, Atkinson and Schifren's model was very passive. It was a receptacle, if you will. In Baddeley and Hitch's model, this is more like a workbench. It's someplace that things are brought to, worked upon, and then passed on into long-term memory. So you would have three component parts that Baddeley and Hitch talked about. This they referred to as the auditory loop. And it obviously was information that was brought to me by auditory means. This component part they referred to as the visual spatial sketchpad. And this is information that comes to me through a visual spatial means, things in space, things that I record by visual means, and they referred to that as the visual spatial sketchpad. The other component part was what they referred to as the central executive, and essentially it uses attention to manage the information coming to and from the vision and auditory to decide which stuff goes to a long-term memory, and when things are called out of long-term memory, they are shuttled to the various areas that are needed to process that particular information. Needless to say, Baddeley and Hitch and their model really changed the way we thought about memory itself. It wasn't a passive thing at all. It was actually quite active, and information passed to and from in a very active way. This central executive is very much like a central processing system. If you want to talk about it in terms of CPU in a computer, the central executive operated in very similar ways, and that's what they proposed essentially. Now, the other component part to mention, just in terms of memories themselves, are two other kinds of memories that I want to just mention in passing. The first is explicit memory. And explicit memories are those that require effort on our part to actually commit to memory. So they're effortful. Explicit memory is memory of facts. It is memory of experiences. It's things that we try to remember. A lot of times we might use photos to trigger those memories, but it is facts and experience primarily that we consciously know and can essentially declare. That's why oftentimes it's referred to as declarative memory. The second kind of memory is referred to as implicit memory. And implicit memory are non-declarative memories, and they involve retention without conscious recollection. So non-conscious recollection are part of the cue to implicit memory. So we're not even aware very much of the fact that certain memories are being laid into place. And I have a couple different things that I have students do in my cognitive psych class that are called implicit learning. And they end up being the kinds of things that we have taken in without really being all that aware of, that are part of memories themselves. So declarative, explicit memories are the things that we intentionally try to encode. Implicit memories are non-conscious. They involve the retention without a conscious recollection per se.
Oh, darling, I didn't know you were here. What have you got there?
I brought you some plates.
Oh, I feel kisses. Aren't leaves better than men?
I think so, yes. I'd go along with that.
Oh, good.
Would you like a Danish pastry?
It's a lovely idea.
Oh, would you like one?
I would, actually.
Oh, good. We've got enough too, that's marvellous.
Yes, one each.
That's good.
Here, one, Mike.
Oh,
Yes,
thank
but
you very
visitors
much. Golly, they're
first.
rather large, aren't they?
And
Just
ladies second.
Thank you.
Thank you. Take the small one.
Oh, this is enormous, very difficult to hold,
Thank you.
actually. Isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, have a serviette.
Oh, that's okay then.
Make it
Oh,
easier.
that sounds like a male name. Serviette who?
Serviette.
Yes, sir. Starts
Oh,
with
sir.
Serviette, yes.
One of the things that characterises Clive's day is that he continually makes entries in his diary. Now I say makes entries in his diary rather than keeps a diary, because in fact he's not keeping the diary. It is an inner compulsion to record the momentous event of waking up, because Clive's perception of his own condition is that because he has no memory whatsoever up to the current 10, 20 seconds, or maybe half a minute, depending on whether there have been distractors, any proactive interference. On the whole, his conscious working span memory is that current minute. So everything else behind the minute is blank. So everything until now is unknown and is void. So he uses the analogy of feeling as if he has just woken up. He says it's like just waking up for the first time. It's like just becoming conscious. It's as if I have been unconscious for however many years. And because this is a continual state, unless he's actually engaged on a conversation or on playing Patience of Solitaire, which he does a lot, or on playing the piano, or on taking a walk, unless his mind is elsewhere engaged, that is his experience of life, which is, oh, it's as if I've just woken up. Oh, you're the first person I've seen. Oh, I haven't, and it's this amazement that from, I mean, can you imagine what would it be like if you were unconscious and you just came to, but you didn't have a lot of people around your bed saying, oh, you've been unconscious, you're in hospital. You've just got people eating a meal or watching TV as if nothing has happened. So he is habituated to that condition. He realizes that it's not surprising, but he uses that as an analogy for the experience of having no memory. It's as if I've just woken up. And because for him it is momentous, he has to write it down. And he has to write it down on any available surface. If the diary is in front of him, he will write it down there. He will record the time, 10:50 a.m., awake first time, 10, and then he looks at the previous entry, which was 10:48 a.m., awake first time, and he says, no, I wasn't awake then. That wasn't me. That wasn't proper awakeness. This is the first real awakeness. So he goes through the diary, scoring out previous entries and underlining the current new entry, because this now is the real awakeness. All the previous awakenesses are unknown to me.
I've nothing to say about it. It's just like death. No thoughts of any kind, no dreams, no difference between day and night, no sight, no sound, no taste, no touch, no smell, exactly like death. No difference between day and night. No thoughts, nothing. No dreams, nothing at all.
How long?
Any question you have is to answer, I don't know. There's nothing to say. No dreams, no sight, no sound, no taste, no touch, no smell, nothing at all, no thoughts, nothing.
Since how long ago?
2 years, that's all I know. Whole time I've been ill, nothing at all, no thoughts, nothing.
What's it like now?
I can see. First time. First time I had any evidence I was alive.
And do you feel sort of normal now?
Yes. Since I sat down here, I don't remember sitting down here.
You don't remember sitting down?
No, I never see any human being now. I can see you fully of you now. No touch, no smell, nothing at all.
Do you know what happened to you?
No.
Any idea?
No idea at all. It's just like death.
Do you know how long you've been like
No
this?
idea, it just seems like years, that's all.
When do you, any idea what year you got ill?
No.
Have a guess.
Sometime in the 80s.
Sometime in the 80s, yes.
That's all I can say.
Early 80s, mid 80s, late
No idea.
80s?
I can't
Guess?
remember. Middle 80s.
Middle 80s, yeah. That's correct. And do you know what year it is now?
No.
Have a guess.
It was in the 90s, I suppose.
Yeah? How far in would you
No
say?
idea. I couldn't, anything between 91 and 99, I don't know.
You've no feeling for that? No. But it's now 1998. Any idea what month it is? All right, have a look out the window.
No, it looks like about March, April, no, February, March, something like that. February, March.
It is April. You're
Yeah.
right first time, yeah. So whose birthday is it next month?
Mine.
Yep.
And my brother.
Any idea how old you'll be?
93,000.
No.
No?
How old do you think really?
21.
No. How old do you really how old do you feel?
22.
You feel 22, and how old do you think you are?
67.
No.
No?
Do you really think you're 67?
No idea what it is. No clue. It could be 90 or 100, all I know about it. No difference in day and night, no dreams, nothing at all.
Do you think your hair's grey or
No idea.
white?
I've never seen it.